Performance fees among retail mutual funds are becoming much more prevalent across the globe. The argument behind them is that they, instead of paying a fixed or flat management expense ratio, or MER, to own the fund, the fee that you end up paying is a function of how well the fund performs. So the argument goes that the fund manager running the fund gets paid more when the fund performs well, and that aligns the incentives of the fund manager with those of the investors in the fund. At first glance, this sounds pretty appealing. After all, who wants to pay their fund manager just as much when they do poorly? Most people would prefer to pay more when the fund does well if it means they pay less when the fund performs poorly. The trouble is investors don't pay less when the fund performs poorly. Most funds charge a 2% flat fee, even if the fund loses money, and charge an exorbitant fee if the fund performs well. There's often no limit to the potential fee that the fund company can charge if the fund performs well. So therefore, the upside to the fund company is many multiples of the downside. And in essence, the fund company has a free call option on the portfolio. So some might argue that performance fees are still very valuable because they provide a very strong economic incentive for a fund manager to perform well. But this argument is flawed for two reasons. One, it assumes that a fund manager, if they just work hard enough, they can beat the benchmark. And I can assure you this isn't true. The world is littered with workaholic fund managers who don't beat the benchmark. Second, the argument assumes that fund managers don't already have a lot of incentive to perform well. This also isn't true. Fund managers have an incredible amount of pressure on them to perform well. First, their future career opportunities are entirely dependent upon how well they perform on a fund. Second, fund managers stand to receive very large bonuses and financial compensation from their employer if they perform well. So investors would be best to just avoid performance fee funds altogether. It's really just a way for fund companies to charge investors more in the long run. Instead, investors would be better to focus on finding funds run by managers where that manager has a significant personal investment in the fund that he or she runs. After all, what more incentive could a fund manager need to perform well than having their own money on the line?